The Witch Movie Project.
Ooh, oh my gosh, I'm scared already. Are you scared, Courtney?
Oh yeah.
The violin, the witch laughing, like what in the world have we started here? Like, what is this?
What is this? Why are we here?
This is the Witch Movie Project, as you probably have figured out by now. If you've clicked on this, you've seen it, you saw the logo, you saw our amazing pictures. We got those taken down at the mall. Remember that, Courtney? Remember?
Yeah. Yeah. Had to polish my horns.
Yeah, right. So let's tell people out there how this project really came about. And you know what? I'll just tell you that this is my selfish project. And basically, these were the movies I was going to watch anyway. I just was looking for a sucker to talk to me about them with. And instead of a sucker, I found a real witch who could actually bring some insight to these movies that I really do love the horror genre, period, and then the subgenres of witch, folk horror, all these other things. And Courtney here, Courtney Pearl, host of Practically Magic on Ride the Wave Media. I'm just Blane, by the way, host of Radio Daybreak, CEO of Ride the Wave Media. But Courtney, the witch, tell me, when I asked you, how did you think this was going to go?
Well, I love movies. And I thought to myself, there's probably a lot of movies made about witches that are portraying them in a certain light. Maybe I can bring some insight into paganism and also share my love of the movies and how they're made.
You do that very well as we've been working on this. Now, this is we've been talking about this all summer long, and we had a list of probably 40 movies, and then we narrowed it down, and then we decided to pair these movies up. Courtney, tell us how this is actually going to work for the people out there. This is the first episode, so you haven't missed anything yet.
Oh, yeah, and you can always go back.
Yeah.
We have 2 movies we're reviewing every episode. Well, sometimes there's a little bonus third one. I'll just tease that out there.
Oh.
But we have 2 movies each week we're reviewing, picking apart, going into detail about, and even sharing some of our experiences with this movie and watching the movies. And it's all leading up to a final event, a live podcast of our show while watching a witch movie with us.
I cannot wait. Listen, this event is going to be on October 26th, presented by Novel Daybreak by Crescent Communities. We love this place. There's their logo and their card. Listen,
we love them.
I fell in love with this location the first time I ever walked there, and we've been at Novel time and time again now, and I can't wait to go and partner up with them and have this event, because literally this is going to be us doing a live podcast taping and showing the movie that you guys vote. We're going to is that how it's going to work? We're going to let them vote between 2 movies, and we're going to break it down. And
yeah,
I can't wait. And this is kind of inspired. I'm not going to say it, kind of. This was inspired by Joe Bob Briggs and what he's done for 40 plus years of keeping the drive-in alive. And we're just going to have to do a drive-in inside because we don't have one yet. But
yeah,
this is a passion project, and I'm super excited about it. Courtney, I know you're amped up about it. Like, how can you not be?
I'm all in. All in.
All in. The first episode, stick around for it right now. The first 2 movies were not witch movies, but they were folk horror movies. And I think it was I think it's going to be a really good setup and foundation for the rest of what we talk about later on as this series progresses, takes you through September, October, and who knows, it might go forever, for eternity. What do you think, Courtney? Could you do this forever?
Possibly.
I hope we get not only invited to host some more movie screenings, but hey, maybe we end up in our own horror movie at some point. What do you think about that?
Hey, and I'd be open to doing a rom-com series for Valentine's Day or something like that.
I love that idea. Let's go see this first episode. Make sure we get some people hooked here before we start planning the rest of it, all right?
Okay.
All right, Courtney, let's get to our first two movies. I know we set this thing up as like the witch movie project. Our first two, though, don't necessarily involve witches. Am I right?
Per se, right?
Not on the surface. Not on the surface. We are actually going to start with the folk horror genre. Am I right there? That's what this is. It's folk horror, and we don't want to give away the movies just yet. Even though you probably just read the show notes or the title and figured it out, but let's just say that one of these folk horror movies started this whole thing. It started the genre. It very much inspired the other one. Now, I'm not talking about Blood on Satan's Claw. That was 1971. That was a little bit earlier. Or The Witchfinder General. That was probably your first folk horror movie in 1968. This one was a couple years later, but it really put on the map this genre. And Courtney, I brought you into this and said, hey, you got to check this movie out. I don't think you'd ever seen either one of these movies that we're going to talk about.
No, and I love horror movies. I mean, I love movies. I'm a movie buff anyway. So I'm a little torn because when you look at like themes of paganism and witchcraft in horror movies, I'm torn with the idea of the propaganda against witchcraft, but also the movie is so good.
Oh.
So you got to love it.
Now, the first movie we were talking about, we'll tell you the name in a minute. You've probably already guessed it. The next movie very much took inspiration from this movie. There's no way it didn't. I believe the directors even said that, yes, absolutely. And it's a pagan festival. Now, these two movies are disturbing. Let's just set that up. We should say that up front. This is disturbing content. So it's going to be fucked up. That's the way to put it, right, Courtney?
Oh, yeah. And I even read that the studio execs wanted the makers of this movie to write a happy ending. I'm going to assume that we can spoil things. This is for an audience that watches the movie or who will watch it spoiled.
Yeah.
So they wanted rain, basically, to end the movie. And the creators, director, writers of the movie were like, nope.
Yeah.
No, we're ending it.
They stood the
just
ground.
like it is.
They stood their ground, and that even back, that's hard to do in Hollywood. That's hard to do at any time in Hollywood. The first movie we're talking about is The Wicker Man. Yes. Point blank, Wicker Man, you've already guessed it. And our second movie, Courtney?
Midsommar. One of them, 1977, so not the more recent Wicker Man, right?
1973, 1973.
73, right.
Yes. We've got a movie from 1977 on another show. That's Suspiria.
Oh, yeah. I got it mixed up. So that's a teaser for the next one.
There you go. But let's start with Wicker Man.
Yes.
Now, this thing, you got some heavy hitters in this movie. You had, Christopher Lee.
Yes, who said this was his favorite movie to be in, which I was a little shocked. I mean, he's been in a lot of really good stuff. And he said that not only was this his favorite movie to be in, but he thinks he did the best in this movie.
Yeah.
Of all the movies that he's been in.
Yeah.
He praising his own performance. So I'm like, that's a big deal.
No, I know Christopher Lee even would take interviews with anybody and everybody to talk about this movie. He didn't take one with us.
Yeah.
But we didn't ask him. Maybe we'll check it out.
Not yet.
But he would. So it would be really weird for farmers out in Iowa to turn on their morning TV and there's Christopher Lee there. You're talking about in the 70s. This is before social media. So it's not everybody doing a selfie. So to see a bona fide celebrity on your local television channel, mind blown, right? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And he must have really wanted to do this project because he actually did not accept payment for it.
I love that. That's insane to me.
Is that amazing? He was so eager to step away from the sort of Dracula villain that he had played. He was sort of getting typecast, and he was so willing to do something different than that he was like, I'll do this project for free.
Hey.
Amazing, right?
Another all-star performance in this movie is Edward Woodward. Now, he's the one who, from the very beginning of the movie, he goes to the island. He's Sergeant Howie, and he goes to this remote, so let's just set it up. He goes to this remote Scottish island because there's a disappearance of a girl named Rowan. Now, when he gets to this island, right off the jump, you already know, like, something's not right. Like, it's sure, it looks bright and cozy, but even when he looks at the dock across the way, something's off. Something's off. It's the atmosphere.
Group of elderly gentlemen standing there waiting for him to arrive.
Right.
I also took note that the boat that brought him from the plane had the evil eye on it, a symbol of protection, or perhaps even depending on how you use it, it could be towards someone as like a curse. Like someone's eye is on you, or there's someone's jealous or envious eye on you. So just a quick shot I took note of.
Let me give you a little trivia on that boat. So that boat was actually owned by a resident there. That was not a prop. It was owned by a resident there, and they used that boat. That boat stood until about 2004 or somewhere in there, and then I think it disappeared or got destroyed. But that was not a prop. The evil eye boat was actually there.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, that means that was still a pretty prevalent tradition there. And I know there are a lot of like remote areas of Italy and islands that still very much in the tradition of using the evil eye. I think it's making a comeback too. So
the evil eye is making a comeback. I mean, everybody hits that evil eye sometimes. You gotta lock it in on people. So the movie, though, from there, you just feel this. It's almost like it's like the roller coaster, and it just goes straight down because you start delving into this. You get encapsulated by this atmosphere that's crazy. I describe this movie. When you watch this movie, it's one of those that you're not just watching a movie. You're like, oh my God, there's something special here. This is something different. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you get this sense of dread. Both these movies do this.
Yeah. And aren't you just as frustrated walking through interviewing these townspeople when Sergeant Howie is interviewing people? He cannot get a straight answer out of anybody. The group of men on the dock, it's like, have you seen this woman? Have you seen this little girl? Do you know who she is? They're like, nope, no idea. We don't know who that is. And then they're like, do you know this woman? Oh yeah, we know May. She works the post office. And then they're like, well, does she have a daughter? Oh, that's not her daughter though.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes, it's like, does this girl exist? And people are like, no, maybe. She may be dead. We don't know.
and all along, you can see Sergeant Howie slowly driving himself mad, going like it's taking its toll on Sergeant Howie, and it takes its toll on you as a viewer watching this. It takes its toll on you because you're like, give me a straight answer.
Yeah,
because as a viewer, you don't know what's going on. You really don't know. Well, who is this Rowan girl? You're not really sure. All the way up to when he opens up the casket later on in the movie, which we'll get to. But this atmosphere, bright, sunny, yet dark, disturbing stuff happening. It's two giant contrasts of how to make this thing come together. It's wild how it's crazy how the director put all this together and thought this out, that I can make it this happy looking place, but there's this real dark underbelly. Robin Hardy did a good job of doing it. So
Isn't that just similar to Midsommar? It's the same idea. And I'll, kind of get to this later when we talk about that movie. But in comparison, they're both like kind of idyllic places on the surface, right? Like the sunny community feeling, everyone knows everyone. It seems like this community really does know how to come together and support each other. And there's cycles of death and rebirth, and they're all kind of involved in it. So it's, I mean, on the surface, without the dark underbelly of what's really going on, you kind of get a sense of like, well, this wouldn't be a bad place to live. I don't mind this,
I mean,
right?
absolutely, and they paint that picture very well. You're like, oh, it's not that bad. But if you really look, there are tiny details that in both movies that show you that things are not as they seem. You have in the Wicker Man, they're going wild in the bar. Like that bar scene is already crazy. You got
and what they're singing about, it's like, ew, like dirty old men talking about the singing some kind of Scottish folk song about the landlord's daughter. And how promiscuous she is.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you had Willow, played by Britt Eklund. Willow, the bar. You got the naked dance from her.
Yeah. Which I have some info, by the way.
Oh yeah, go ahead with that. I want to hear that.
Yeah. So when doing some research on the kind of background, I looked at Mental Floss had done Mental Floss magazine or Mental Floss website, did some background on this movie, and it was really fascinating because Britt Eklund, who plays Willow, the landlord, the innkeeper's daughter, she did not do her singing and voice. She had someone dubbed over the singing and voice because she didn't quite get the Scottish accent. Couldn't quite get it right. So that was dubbed over. She had a butt double. So when it shows her dancing from behind, it's not her.
I think you can actually see when the dancer does the head turn, you can actually see the face in one shot, and it's not her. You're like, wait a minute, that's not her.
No, I think the hair is even like way longer than her hair. Yeah. It's a blonde woman for sure, but it's like, no, it doesn't quite match up. But what's interesting is that because she did kind of semi-nude scenes in that dancing part, she's kind of trying to seduce the main character. I guess she had dated Rod Stewart later, and he was very jealous of her having done those scenes, and he tried to get the negatives from the film and burn them or destroy them because he didn't like the fact that image and her nakedness was out there in the world and things like that. He wasn't able to get the originals. So it's just interesting.
I do think that the movie was banned for just a little bit when it first came out because of that. Even though it was a butt double, it wasn't even Britt Eklund.
Yeah.
It was just the topless scenes with her. Anything below the waist was not her, but he still held it up, that's wild. That's wild. The 70s was a different time, hey.
I know. It was interesting. It was interesting because I had seen many movies from that era.
Yeah.
But I did make note as we were watching like the opening sequence, and he gets to the sweets shop to talk to what's supposed to be the missing girl's mother, and the woman's daughter is there, and she's painting a rabbit, and I just took note of like the aesthetics in that scene. I was like, why are all the sweets in the sweet shop? It seems like the sweets and stuffed animals made around that time are all so hideously ugly and creepy.
Yeah.
I had to write it down. I was like, why are they always so weird looking? They weren't cuddly or sweet or delicious looking. They all look a little
off,
gross to me. Yeah. Maybe it's just my when I was born time period, but that's just me.
But we got to talk about that. We got to talk about just the background stuff, the set. Like there's hints and stuff all throughout both movies. Wicker Man, like I said, the bar scene. I mean, the hotel itself is called the Green Man Inn.
Green Man Inn, yep.
Like that's
there's
got some relevance.
Great to the god of the forest. Green Man is something that even in today's neo-pagan circles are very well known. He's the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which is a theme that you see a lot in this movie. So Green Man Inn, it fits definitely what I have to say about in the making of this movie, both movies actually, is I'm impressed with the research done.
Yeah.
I actually expected a lot of things to be incorrect and made up because I don't know. I just thought a movie being made in 1973 would be like, we'll just throw a bunch of stuff that looks pagan or that looks like what we think pagan is, but we don't, we don't have to be real about it. But I'm impressed. They did their research, and a lot of the stuff in this movie is from actual pagan influences.
I mean,
so
the apples. I mean, is an apple not a symbol of something that's pagan? Tell me, do you know what that is? Like, what is that? Because they were everywhere.
Well,
and even very early on in the movie, you start seeing the apple pop up.
yes, and the apple is a very very prominent symbol of the Isle of Apples, which is the Isle of Avalon in King Arthur tradition, or in the legend of King Arthur, Arthurian legend.
Arthurian legend, yep.
Yes, the Isle of Apples is the island shrouded in mist that is, from the other world, and it's where the witch of Morgan Le Fay, Arthur's sister, lives, and he gets taken there for healing. So, a place of evil, a place of magic, or a place of healing. It can be all of those things. It's referenced as all of those things. And so apples and apple orchards you'll see a lot of that symbol.
What other?
The star that you make when you cut an apple, the seeds are in a 5-star. There's symbology in that. So
interesting. Yeah. Now, what other symbology or symbolism did you capture? Did you catch in this movie that I might have missed? Because my non Celtic priestess eye didn't miss some stuff. So what did I miss?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I was like into it, looking at all of the like corners of everything, looking for symbols. I did notice that some of the lyrics in the songs, as you're listening, I always watch a movie with subtitles. So I got to write down like some of the symbols. One of the lyrics in the song said, "Fair maid, white and red." I believe it's Willow singing it when she's seducing the sergeant and with her little naked dance that she's doing in the other room. But she talks about fair maid, white and red are symbols in England of like the black and the white, or the dark and the light. The colors on the English flag on the royal crest are usually white and red. In Glastonbury, they have the sacred springs, which are the white spring and the red spring.
Interesting.
So part of it symbolizes like divinity, some of it, and then the red symbolizing like the blood and the bloodline of royalty. And I think it's really interesting that, and I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit because I'm talking about the ending a little bit for a second. They needed somebody who was a virgin, right? And if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean when I say they needed someone.
Yep.
But she's trying to seduce him here. She's trying to see, like, she's testing him. And in a lot of Celtic folklore, there are sovereignty goddesses. And the sovereignty goddess's role is to test someone to make sure they're worthy of something, to be worthy of kingship, usually. So, here we have Willow kind of playing the part of this sovereignty goddess. She's kind of testing him with her, like, I thought you were going to come to my room last night. And he's like, oh, well, I actually don't believe in that before marriage.
Yeah. And
she's like, too bad. And we find out later that was actually an important part. Like, they needed that, right? So it's just interesting.
If he had fallen for the siren, Willow,
yeah,
would the movie just have ended there with a nice sex scene and we're out? Because they wouldn't have had a virgin anymore, right?
Yeah. I wonder that. I thought about that. I'm like, maybe it would have saved his life, if you will.
A crazy sex will save your life. I don't think we can actually promote that, but sure,
I mean, in most horror films, sex is usually the thing that gets the people killed, exactly. Right? So I mean, that's usually typically the theme that we see. So I love that. In this case,
we're on to something there. There's something there. Now, we got to talk more about this music, because one of the main symbols in this thing was the Maypole. Now,
yeah, Oh, I gotta talk about this.
You already know.
Is that not interesting?
Now, when we see Sergeant Howie walking through, and he walks past the Maypole with the kids dancing around it, and they're singing that song. The first time I had to run it back. I had to run it back and see and hear the song again. But I've got the lyrics.
I did too. I wrote them down. I'm like, ooh.
It's the one where it says, "In the woods there grew a tree, and a fine, fine tree was he." I might have to go out into song here. And on that tree,
Could be musical.
Yeah. And on that land there was a branch, and on that branch there was a nest, and in that nest. Now this thing just goes on and on and on. And it goes all the way to from that grave there grew a tree, which is the whole cycle of it, right?
Yes. You see symbols of death and rebirth all through this movie, everywhere, including when the sergeant has a flashback of his Christian sacrament. They're talking about resurrection and the death of Christ and the rebirth of Christ. And so even in his Christian come from, we're seeing those same symbols come through this movie over and over and over again, which is fascinating. And the Maypole, that song, for sure. It's talking about like the cycle of death. It says, on the tree made a bed, on the bed laid a woman, on the woman there was a man, from the man there came a seed, from the seed there came a boy, from the boy there grew a man, and from that man there was a grave. So you're like, birth and death cycles again, right?
And then that's just you could loop that over and over and over. That's what it is. It was 18-year cycles or something is what they lived on. Seasons, they called it. They even say, hey, what happens at 72? Well, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And they don't. It's wild though, right?
Yeah. We find out what happens.
Yeah.
So what I thought was interesting about the Maypole in this
actually, the seasons were in Midsommar. The seasons were in Midsommar, right? The 18 years.
Yeah, the seasons were Midsommar. Yeah, but same themes. The same themes are running through each movie, kind of in their different way. But I thought it was interesting that they had young boys doing the Maypole. That's not typically what you see in pagan situations. I mean, like, just from what I know about the tradition is that it's usually the maidens or the young women of the village that are doing the Maypole, because the pole is itself a phallic symbol of fertility.
We see that in Midsommar. We see nothing but females around the Maypole in Midsommar. So that's a great point to point out. Was there something there?
I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I didn't never notice that. Thank you for pointing that out. There is this huge clash, though, of the religion and culture, basically. I just call it culture because they even tell them, this is the culture. Both movies tell you, this is the culture. This is what we're raised in. This is what we're happy with. But the religion side is like, no, you can't be happy with that. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. When Lord Summerisle and Sergeant Howie meet, and they have the discussion, and he says, you've got fake biology, you've got fake religion. What is this? And he says, basically, he said, do these kids even know who Jesus is? And he hits him with that one line, basically, where he says, wasn't Jesus born a virgin and by a ghost? And I wrote that down too. I was like, perfect. You see his face. You see Sergeant Howie's face, and then Lord Summerisle even says, "Sit down to absorb the shock." But it's when you put it in that context, he just made those. He made their culture, their paganism, even with that first world religion. We'll just call it, because there, the stories without the names on it was no different, and he showed him that. That was that was right in the middle of the movie. To me, that was one of the hardest hitting moments in that movie to show it together.
Yeah, because it shows you that it doesn't make, like, even if they're all just stories, or let's say they're all made up, these gods, these deities, these whatever it is, or Jesus born from a virgin, conceived by a ghost, it doesn't make any of them less sacred. You can argue that they could all be just as sacred. It's the meaning we put behind it. It's the devotion. And obviously Sergeant Howie is very devoted to his faith and very devoted to his values. But what we're seeing even in today's culture is, when does that, perpetuate onto other people and what they should or shouldn't believe? I love the way that the school teacher explains death. And she's like, well, when we die, we become the trees and we become the plants and we become the air. And it reminded me of when an interview with Neil Tyson deGrasse, the famous scientist, most people know. He's kind of our modern age Einstein. We all look to him for scientific expertise. And I saw an interview where they asked, so what do you believe in life after death? What do you believe happens after we die? And he basically said almost the exact same thing this teacher just described, which is our energy gets reformatted into the earth and into the sky and into the consciousness of all beings. And like energetically, this is what we know. Scientifically, this is what we know about energy. So it's like, what's really the difference here? I mean, one comes with a story. The other is a scientific explanation. But is anyone really wrong or right? Or, yeah. So
it's very interesting. And I love how I honestly, in the 70s, I wonder how this went over. I wonder in that era, were people open to this idea? Were they like, oh yeah, I'd love to live on this island. Who cares? Like, that sounds like my kind of living. Or is it terrifying? Like, you see that Wicker Man. The only modern day thing I can think of for that here is Burning Man, but they don't put a person in that statue when they burn it. How about that reaction that when he walked over the hill?
Yeah, did you see that?
Did you know?
I noticed that too. That they did not prepare him. He had not seen, the actor had not seen the Wicker Man until they pulled him into that scene. So the reaction was perfectly genuine, right? Yeah.
And also, when he got in that thing, here's a funny note. When he got in there, they actually had a goat above him, and the goat peed on him. So that's real.
Yeah,
actually,
that too. Yeah. No animals were harmed in the making of this movie. However,
yeah,
the goat did pee.
The goat did pee.
So
I bet that
he was a little bit.
Edward Woodward gives a hell of a performance right there. I guarantee he had to be terrified out of his mind, because they actually burnt that thing. Like, and I don't know what that consists of. Like, I don't know if that's a couple of guys drinking a 6-pack of beer saying, "All right, we'll get it here." I don't know. That's how I would run it, but I'm not an arsonist or whatever. What do you got to have a legal license to do that?
Yeah. Well, I do want to note one thing about the scene when he comes back to talk to Lord Summerisle. When he's playing the piano and they're kind of discussing, it was the second time I think that they came back around. He is wearing a lace collar. I think they called it a jabot or jabot. I'm not sure how you say it, but I said if he wanted to get away from the Dracula performances, this maybe wasn't doing him any favors. Yeah. He was wearing this very Dracula-like outfit, but with a Scottish kilt that was Royal Stuart plaid. It was the red plaid kilt. Just if anybody wanted to know what the name of that specific Scottish plaid kilt he was wearing in that scene, that's what it was. Royal Stuart.
I love that. Hey, well, I might have to have that for my Halloween costume this year.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. Yeah. So this movie, the end, it really just boils down to it's a powerful commentary on, in the time, it was a powerful commentary on the clash of beliefs, whether it was pagan, whether it was religious, and the power of community. Because that community, there's no change in what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very key takeaway to take from this as a overlying theme. It was clash of beliefs versus the power of community.
Yeah, and they did stick together, and they would have to, right? Because obviously this man was a sergeant, a police officer in Scotland. He's going to go missing.
Yeah.
He says at one point he has a fiance. So I think that the community is going to have to stick it together to, close the community and be like, we take this to our grave. If someone comes looking for him, we don't know where he went. And they all stuck together with the story of Rowan, the missing girl, so that they could trap him. And they did it. But I would argue one thing that is something to think about when it comes to these beliefs is I don't know many pagans personally that would actually sacrifice neither animal nor human for any reason whatsoever. But I mean, which is the worst crime in that a human sacrifice once in a while versus the damage done in the 15 to 1700s by Christians who were colonizing and burning witches and taking over and genocide and so I mean, you could kind of like outweigh the evilness there or the sin. Which beliefs have the worst of it? I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah. But final thought on Wicker Man, and then we're gonna get to Midsommar.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So my biggest takeaway is going to be in both movies the comparison of the main characters. So you have Sergeant Howie. He's sticking to his Christian beliefs, even to the very end. He's like, I will be resurrected in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, this is a very big deal for him. This is like, he's thinking these people are all crazy and mad, and I'm the right one. I'm the one who did, stuck true to my faith.
He's a martyr.
And then you have the main character in Midsommar, who I believe the theme of that movie is similar to this outsider coming to a community, and it kind of is her story of embracing it more than it is her being like, no, this is wrong. I'm sticking to my guns about Christianity or my other belief or whatever beliefs I have or whatever. It's a different kind of a story that we end up with, right?
Yeah, it's totally opposite, honestly, like the way you lay it out right there. So let's get into it. You want to get into Midsommar?
Oh yeah.
I'm
excited.
I love this movie. I enjoy this movie but not in like a joyful way.
It's tough to watch.
It is tough to watch. I'm gonna lay this out though a little bit different than the horror movie that it actually is. But I'm gonna also say that this is a revenge movie. This is a breakup movie. It is. If you really watch this thing and the arc that it goes, this is a breakup movie because right from the very beginning, you see that Dani's boyfriend is shitty. Like this guy's just.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my gosh. And so I have to say first, when the movie starts, because if someone hasn't seen it yet, or if they're watching it like in tandem with what our comments are, pay attention to the mural in the opening sequence. And any murals like on tapestries, on the walls, they're all foreshadowing. And the mural in the opening sequence, when I paused on it and really looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the entire movie. Basically, they've laid out the entire movie.
And it goes from right to left. Like it goes the opposite direction. And I wanted to note also on that mural is bright, it's colorful. And then what happens? It opens up in the middle to the darkest, most dreary looking scene. It's snowy, it's isolated. We haven't used that word yet. Isolation was both of these movies was the biggest thing. When going back to Wicker Man, when Sergeant Howie, when he finds out his plane can't start, that sense of isolation and alone, you felt it with him. You're like, oh no, he's trapped. Same thing. Yeah. Same thing from the very opening shot. There's that symbolism that Ari Aster, the director. I can tell you right now, he did not plan this to go from this bright mural who told the whole story to this underneath it dark. Damn.
Winter scene, yes. And filmed in Utah, by the way.
Oh, whoa! Now, hold
yes.
on a minute. This was filmed in Utah? I might not have known that. We should have went.
That opening scene with Dani's the main character, her parents and sister and their home. The home was a home in Draper, and that scene, the winter scene, is a Salt Lake Valley.
We may have to go out there and get some footage over there. I might have to go tour the house. We may have to go see that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Find it.
Bad stuff happened in that house in the very opening of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We see something that's so disturbing that you're like, yeah, this movie's gonna fuck me up. Like it's
Yeah, definitely has to set the stage for the grief, right? There has to be this intense, traumatic, heavy grief that the main character Dani is coming from.
Yeah.
Like right from the beginning, right?
And this is all within the first 12 minutes of the movie. This is before the opening credits. You basically get to see how shitty her boyfriend is, blowing off her, basically worrying about her sister not texting her back, calling her back. She can't get a hold of her parents. You can see the dread in her, and her boyfriend just, he's smoking resin or something, whatever he's doing. And the weird thing is that he's such a piece of shit that he doesn't notice that she is completely disturbed. And if somebody's acting like that, they've got some intuition. Something's wrong, you know? So him already not being there for her sets up some stuff for later.
Yeah, and I have to say all of that, and there are several points throughout the beginning, probably the first half of the movie, that set this up. But the experience that she has with boyfriend and his friends, it was so triggering to me. And I'm not alone. This is why I'm mentioning it, because I am sure there are going to be other young women, or even middle-aged women like me, who understand that feeling. Because I was coming from a space in my youth where I didn't have a lot of friends of my own. And so when I met my husband, who was my boyfriend, he and his circle of friends became my social group. Completely. Like I was alone otherwise. And so there were times when, he would want to like go hang out with his friends, and I would be the tag along girlfriend, right? That awkwardness that's like, and they make her feel so crappy about herself. It was like, oh, I know this is all too familiar. I know this feeling. Not that anyone purposely made me feel that way, but I know that feeling. And I felt for her because she was just trying really hard to just be as small and unburdened, not a burden to this group as possible. And yet she still was made to feel like she was the burden constantly.
After going through the biggest tragic events that you could possibly think of, and she walks into the room and they're like, oh,
they're like, oh, I guess you can come to Sweden with us. Sure.
If you think her boyfriend Christian isn't bad, or isn't bad enough, there's his friend Mark. He's a shithead too. And
I hate Mark. I am so okay with what happens to Mark. Okay.
I want to go back to before the opening credits, where you even see who, Ari's name and the name of the movie. It's this awful, and they don't steer away from showing you any of this. You see the hose in the mouth of the girl, of her sister, the crying that is not edited. Florence Pugh, she played Dani. This is a performance. I don't know how she got in. Like she could have got an Oscar for this awesome performance. And
I think so.
I hurt for her.
She's incredible. Yeah, the grief that she shows. Oh my gosh, you can feel it in your body. You can feel it.
And the rest of the movie,
she's incredible.
It really sets the tone for the rest of the movie, because this is not gonna go good. They go. What about, hold on, before they get to land in Sweden, what about that transition that the Pele, the Rico Suave here trying to swoop in. He's the only one that likes Dani being around. And he gives her those seductive eyes right from the get.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ooh, that's really setting something up. This is setting up the theme of belonging. Like, she does not feel, and she's made to feel like she does not belong here. She does not belong on this trip. She does not belong with Christian. Christian is kind of like not even really hiding the fact that he was gonna break up with her, and now he feels like he can't because she's gone through a tragedy, so he kind of has to stay with her. And
Yep.
he's not hiding it well. He's definitely treating her like, I mean, I'm going to a party, but you don't have to go if you don't feel up to it.
Yeah. And then gets there, and then
so yeah,
she finds out, oh, you're going to Sweden like in 2 weeks?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I was gonna make me think about it. Well, Pele, he does not have to work very hard to go to look at her and to just feel, have a conversation where she feels like, I see you. I'm sorry for what happened to you. Happy birthday. Like all of these moments where he gets a chance to be like, you deserve to be seen, Dani, right?
Yeah. Draws a picture of her, like a beautiful picture. Like, oh, it's just something I do for people's birthdays. Yeah, right. Come on, man. We see through this. But the transition from when I'm going to talk about the actual film transition before they get to Sweden, when she's talking to Pele and she gets upset and she goes into the bathroom, and then she's in the airplane bathroom. Did you notice it?
Yeah, too.
I love that. Ari did a great job of somehow putting that together where you, as a viewer, you didn't have a choice to get out of this trip. You're there now. You're already You're already on the plane. You're going to Sweden. So it's almost like you're isolated as a viewer. Yeah.
But it makes you feel everything from her perspective, because you're feeling like her, like, bam, all of a sudden she's on the plane. I mean, this is probably what it feels like. In grief, there's like no weeks and months. It's just like everything is happening right now, and she's propelling forward based on just momentum, not really because she's got any energy to go through it. And I was going to say lots of foreshadowing in the beginning. If you notice in the parents' bedroom, there's a picture of Dani on the nightstand. And then there's a crown of flowers right over the picture of Dani. So lots of cool foreshadowing going on in the opening sequences. I don't want people to miss that.
What else is in that opening? Because I love that. I want to know more about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let me see. I wrote down some things that there's a picture, and I'm not sure if it's Christian's room or Dani's room, but she's in grief and she's kind of sleeping. There's a picture on the wall of a bear and a princess kind of like hugging the bear or kissing the bear. There's a name for that painting. I can't remember what it's called, but that was also an intentional foreshadowing there. So you want to watch out for stuff like that.
I love that. So they land in Stockholm and then have a 4-hour drive. I didn't even know you could drive 4 more hours after you land in Stockholm anywhere. Like, I thought it was, I've never been over there. I love the Swedes. I do. I have some friends who live over there, and I've always wanted to go over there, but I don't know about going to one of these things. But it does look fun from the beginning.
Yeah.
They get there, Pele shows them, they brings them out down this dirt road. It looked a lot like where I grew up. Until you get up there and he's like the young kids or whatever it was. And this is the beginning of the Horga community, the Horga community, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Cool. They get off. They're like, oh, we're on vacation. Oh, here's some rooms.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Again, another opportunity to make Dani feel like a burden, because she's like, you know what? I think I maybe want to get settled in.
Yeah.
Before I do all that, but that's fine. You guys go ahead. And then Christian's like, well, no, I feel like I can't do it right now. And then he's like, we're going to wait. I'm going to do it with Dani later. And then Mark's like, what do you mean later? And it's like, that scene was just, again, another reiteration of like, here's Dani tagging along the girlfriend. Christian won't go on a trip without her. All that kind of, yeah.
Yep. And his friends aren't the best people anyway. Honestly, Josh is not a bad dude. Josh is going over there for his thesis.
Yeah.
Like, he's going over there, taking in the culture. He gets into a little trouble later, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Like, literally 30 minutes in, this is fun. Like, we're tripping balls.
Yeah.
Then it starts, you're like, wait a minute, something's not feeling right. Even when she looks down at her foot and she sees the grass growing through, you're like, ah, or the hand or whatever it was. I'm like,
yeah, the grass is going through her hand. So again, you're seeing it from her perspective. So she's like, and then someone mentions family and it triggers her and she's, having a bad trip because she's like, but you're feeling that disorientation with her, aren't you? Like you're feeling like, how I imagine I would feel on shrooms when I'm like not feeling so good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? I want to feel normal.
She just flew to the middle of nowhere, halfway around the world. Mm-hmm. On top of that, you got the sun.
Yes.
Orienting is to a viewer, to who's there. It's crazy because one of them asked, they say when they're on the shrooms, what time is it? And he says 9 o'clock. And that's when Mark freaks the fuck out. It's like, no, it can't be 9 o'clock. It can't be 9 o'clock. And they freak out because it's broad daylight. I did notice there's a little, I don't think it's an Easter egg, but maybe it is. But in Wicker Man, he asked, what time is it? And she says a little after 9. So I noticed those two, it was 9 p.m. for both Wicker Man and Midsommar. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that disorientation, because
it is disorienting. I don't know if you've ever been up north, but I remember going to Alaska, visiting Alaska. And when we arrived, it was like 10 p.m. We were going to check into our hotel. Total daylight outside. I was so disoriented. I'm like, Mark isn't wrong there. That's disorienting. That's uncomfortable when you're not used to that. And you're like, wait, people are out mowing their lawns right now. It looks like the middle of the day and your mind is like, it's supposed to be night or bedtime or something. But I wrote down in my notes, it's just funny that you said the friends. I just wrote, Mark is an asshole.
He really is. Like,
because he's like, everybody lay down. We all need to lay down because I want to lay down. So everybody lay down with me. Come on, everybody. We're doing it with me.
I love how he was the one that was like all about everybody do this. And he's the first one having the bad trip and bitching about, everybody lay down. Like that's what I expected from a guy like that. I think we've all known people like that.
Yeah. So that's just it. That's in my notes. Just Mark is an asshole. Like we're just agree on that. Moving on.
The next day. So after they get there, they get settled, they trip balls, they have all that. 35 minutes in. 35 minutes in is when they actually arrive at the Horga. You see the big open arch, whatever that thing is. Is that symbolized anything or was that just art?
The sun.
Yeah.
They talk about it a lot in this movie. Like we are making these offerings to the sun. The sun is really important at this summer solstice. It's midsummer. So their festival is all about the sun. It's going to be in order to have bountiful harvest, which again is like in Wicker Man, the rituals are all about, coming from a place of survival. We won't survive winter without this. So we are doing everything possible, including rituals and offerings and singings and festivals, to honor the gods of the sun, the earth, fertility, anything that's going to feed us our food throughout the winter and make sure we survive. That's what it's all about. So yeah, they're doing all of the
stuff. So the festivities kind of begin when they get there, and you start seeing some of that foreshadow come in. Even when they say, you know what? When he says, what are those kids doing? And he's like, oh, they're playing Skin the Fool. And they're laughing about it.
I noted that the second time.
That's not a, sure, that's a game for kids, but that's because they're going to do that later in life. Like that was foreshadowing.
Little foreshadowing there. Oh, they're playing Skin the Fool. There is one of their party that is going to play the part of the fool, and it's exactly who you think it's going to be.
Exactly. And then you see their school. And you find, and this is when it's really, we've already seen all these red flags of this is something weird's going on here. But this is a real big one. When they go by and they're like, oh, the kids are doing their school. Oh, what are they learning? Oh, it's rune carving class. You're like,
yeah.
That's not actually school. You're thinking, oh, they're doing math by the Creek. No. Rune carving, which comes into play later.
Well, consider that the runic alphabet is, and by the way, just to clarify, because this movie did make up its own runes. They call it the elder and the younger Futhark or something like that. They talk about it when they look at the stones. It's based off of Scandinavian and Nordic runes, but it's not like they made it up for the movie. I think probably because they didn't want to associate like these negative connotations with actual culture that exists. But the runic alphabet is that it is just that it's an alphabet. It's letters. So it would be essentially the same as children sitting around learning their alphabet, carving their letters into stones and wood to learn how to read and write. So yeah, we could take it in context with like, okay, so this is just their cultural alphabet. This is their cultural school. I think for me, most of the movie, until you get to certain practices that are inhumane, I think that this commune and society are quite wonderful. I'm looking at it much like the community in Wicker Man at the beginning. You're like, sunshine and roses. These people have it figured out. They're a community. They take care of each other. They take care of their young together. They take care of their old to a certain point.
Yeah.
I say that with an asterisk, right? Like,
now,
to a certain,
I'll accept that, Courtney, but I'm gonna have to call you out a little bit on that because I think he specifically says something along the lines of they're carving runes. It's their form of power, you know. So he does give that extra piece to that. I look at you trying to say, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it could be taken that. And also, just so everyone knows, the Nordic runes are a power that Odin sacrificed 9 days hanging from a tree to get the wisdom from the fates. So that is also power. And I don't know, in that context, they're one and the same. They're an alphabet, a reading and writing system, but you could dare say that our modern day alphabet in English has power as well if you decide to put power to it. So
cool. I love it.
Yeah.
After they walk, this is on their way to their room. And they walk up to this fucking barn. It's just a barn, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, like, they're gonna be sleeping in there with like hay and what's happening here? You know, this ain't no Best Western. That's what they're thinking. And they open the doors. And what do they see?
Is this the where all of the children sleep?
Yeah, where they're sleeping. Everybody's
yeah. It's like this I don't know, like massive bunk bed.
And it's with the walls,
loft,
ceiling. And it's beautiful. It's a mural. It's all these.
Oh yeah, the carvings and paintings and murals all over the wall that tell stories. I think that's amazing and incredible. But they're also pointing out that like there's fertility symbols on these walls, or like kids sleep here. There's pictures of dicks everywhere.
Yeah, I know. It was like all over. It's just sexual positions. I saw stuff I didn't even seen before. Like it's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine being a kid? They sleep in there from 0 to 18, he says in the movie. So you're a kid in there and a teenager, and this is what's all over the walls. Would you be more or less sexualized if this was your upbringing?
I guess you'd be less desensitized to it, but also that comes into play later when you're just having casual sex out in the park with everybody. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's dancing naked out there. You know, maybe it does. I don't know. I don't live in one of those communities. I don't know if I ever will after watching this. But you mentioned right there the seasons and the 0 to 18. Mm-hmm. We get this info right here from their host.
Yeah.
We get it. He tells them, we look at it as seasons. And that's what I was talking about in Wicker Man, and I confused the two. Mm-hmm. But he says 0 to 18 is like spring, and then 18 to 36 is summer, 36-54 is fall, and then 54 to 72, that's your winter. Right here, a key moment.
Yeah.
What happens at 72? He looks at them, he tells them right there.
Across the neck. Yeah.
He tells them right there what's going to happen.
They laugh it off like it's a joke.
Exactly. Now, it begins to come into clearer view for Josh. right about here, because they talk about what is it? The estupu? How do they say this?
Oh yeah, I wrote this down. I have to go back.
It's that whatever I can't even pronounce it. And
Testupa.
there you go.
A testupa is a ritual of elderly being let go from this life on purpose. And this was in the research of the film. It is something that is done in Norse mythology. So this wasn't something they made up for the film because they wanted to make this commune seem really brutal. But this is an idea that exists in Scandinavian countries, or at least in mythology it does. We can't say for sure that this is something that they practiced necessarily, but I guess we can assume that if it's written in the mythology and if, from ancient times, that there was at least at some point some truth to this. Yeah.
Some truth. That's crazy because they don't necessarily know what this is. He says it's going to happen tomorrow. Now, Josh, you see all of a sudden he's like,
yeah.
He's like, wait.
He's already figuring it out.
He's like, a real one? And he knows. And they're like, is it scary? And he's like, now, this foreshadows a lot because we at home, unless you Google this or you already know, you don't know what's happening either. You don't know what this word is. It's at the stupu. I can't even pronounce it, much less know what it is. They even say it's too hard to explain.
Yeah.
Tell them that.
He's like, oh, yeah, you'll just have to see it for yourself.
And then, okay, so now let's get to that. So, or do you have something else on that note?
Well, of the seasons, 0 to 18, 18 to 36, 36 to 54, these are multiples of 9 or associated with the number 9. And that's something to note that because Odin hung from the tree of life for 9 days to gain wisdom, the number 9 is really significant in mythology. So she does say in the opening ceremony, the, what is her name? Siva, the kind of like high priestess lady. She says it's 90 years between great feasts. So this is a great feast that hasn't happened for 90 years.
And it'll be 90.
I think they still do their Midsommar feast, but they're saying something about this particular one only happens every 90 years. And then it lasts for 9 days. So the number 9 shows up a lot.
Cool.
In that.
That's awesome to know too. I mean, that's stuff that we'll be looking out for on other rewatches because I will rewatch. We're not done with this yet. We're halfway through this movie, if halfway, and we get to the dinner. We get to the next day. This is when you're really like, yeah, this is going downhill. Like you just feel like, yeah, this is not normal. From the setup of the table, it's in the shape of a rune.
Yes, it is. I wrote down the rune, actually.
Did you? What?
Yes, I have a card here. See?
That's the rune. That's it right there. It looks like a Jesus fish.
Yes, it does. If it was tilted to the side, it'd be a Jesus fish. So it's called Othilla, this particular rune in Nordic runes, and I started noticing them everywhere. I started to like pause the film and look in the background. So I was looking them up all through the movie, which is so fun and exciting to me. I'm studying the Nordic runes, but I don't know them. So this was actually kind of helpful for me to kind of look at them. But this one particularly means home. So this is they're all sitting at a table built into this shape, but it means inheritance, property, family, responsibilities. All of this are associated with this rune. So it fits perfectly.
Now we still see these two old people. And I just like, okay, so watching this first time, I'm like, all right, something crazy is going to happen, something fucked up. Sure, I've seen all this before. But I'm still kind of like, is it though? Because are they like a king and queen? Because it was like royal.
Yeah.
They put them in the chairs, they pick them up. I want to start.
Yeah. They don't start eating until they pick up eating, and then the rest of the table gets to eat. So that you're noticing like they're in a very honored position, right?
Exactly. And even when they stand up, that's it. You're done. The dinner was over, and that's when they got the chairs. Yeah. Hey, where do I hire a crew to start carrying me around in a chair like that all the time? Because didn't look too bad. I
Looks very relaxed.
I love how this scene is so stretched out because it could have been boom, 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 jump, done. You get to watch them march. You get to see the faces of the Americans who were there, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's about to happen. You got the other people they met, Simon and his girlfriend out in the crowd. They walk up.
Yeah. There's a few more outsiders there.
This is 58 minutes in. 58 minutes in, and this scene lasts for a while.
Yeah.
When they get up and they start chanting and throat singing, from there on, you're like, you kind of sit up. You're like, what the fuck is happening? They keep showing this cliff. You're like, what the fuck's happening? They zoom out when they're on that cliff. You see.
Mm-hmm.
You see all them stones up there. I guess those are rune stones. But what the more, like,
be like a very sacred ceremony, I imagine. In fact, they I can't remember exactly how it happens, but they wipe blood. They have a rune on their tunic, and they wipe it off with blood on the stone somehow. And then, so it's important to note that, because if you're seeing this movie again, if you've already seen it, now you're watching it again, pay very close attention to those runes.
Yeah.
Those runes show up later on Dani and Christian's tunics. The same ones that the couple who meet their demise, if that's a kind way to say it. I like the way you said it.
Now, right here, I got to say that when you see the shot of the cliff and then they walk out, you're like, oh, man. And then they start dancing. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's no cutaways. They
show everything.
This is one of the, if not the most disturbing scenes you'll see in a movie ever.
For sure. Yeah. And it doesn't stop. Like it doesn't cut away, it continues. And then for several scenes later, you get to see the bodies in different, what they do with the bodies later and stuff. So it's just right there. And I'm imagining like children in the village are seeing this. I mean,
they're all happy.
Yeah.
They're all happy. And then Simon and his girlfriend are freaking out. And then, oh my gosh, he jumped, he fell, they're freaking. No, it was by design. And then you've got the head of the what's her name? Siv. You've got her calming them down, saying, hey, no, this is okay. This is okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on, how did she just calm me down as a viewer thinking, all right, I just saw two people die. Like, literally, it's even when the guy jumps and then he doesn't die and they have to bring the hammer in, I'm like,
I know. I know. I remember watching it the first time being like, oh no. I'm like cringing on the couch next to my husband. We're both like, oh.
You know what this scene does? Is make you forget that only less than an hour earlier you saw a woman with a hose in her mouth and all them people dead in the bed. Like that, you thought that was gonna be the worst thing you ever saw. Nuh-uh. This is awful. This rattled me for a while.
Go. Sorry, have a little friend peeking in on us to talk about the horrific scene of this movie.
Man. So after this, you're like, all right, well, I don't know what's gonna happen from now on, but it ain't gonna be good. Like,
yeah, and you're right. They have to calm us down, just like they have to calm Dani and Simon and they have to calm the foreign people down because the movie is not over. And I remember thinking, well, that would be all I'd have to do all I'd have to see to be like, I'm out of here. Get me out of here as fast as you can get me out of here. But they have to somehow keep these characters. So, the director, the writer, the script, they knew what they were doing because they're like, okay, we can't alienate the audience yet. This is horrific, but we have to figure out a way to keep everybody there. And then having Christian and Josh writing a thesis about this community was another good way to do that, because it was like, well, now they're interested. Now they're like, we got to learn more about these people.
Especially when they set it up like, no, you can't have any access, and then all of a sudden, you get access. Of course, that's going to be like, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm special. I'm staying. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because it was so cut off at first, and then they got the permission, and that's got to give you some sort of, I don't want to say ego or something, but yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Things start getting a little weird because Simon left.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wait a minute. Now, I don't know about this. We see him later.
Yes. Yeah. There's some historical context to that as well when we find out what happened to Simon when he goes missing, and they're told he left. He caught a train. And yeah, well, but we do have a conversation between Pele and Dani there.
Yep.
When she's upset, that again, it's just him being like, hey, Christian forgot your birthday. Like, you deserve, he tells her, this, when my parents died, this became my family.
Yeah.
This is my family. This is a community that makes me feel held. And you deserve that, Dani. You deserve to feel held. And I have some theories about her growing up in her family. She probably she wasn't allowed to have space or be held at all in her family if her sister had mental health struggles. She says she was bipolar, always in a crisis. I mean, how does that meet Dani as a person coming into this community? Sure, she just witnessed something really horrific that's really disturbing, but he's telling her, like, this is a place where you will feel held. You're allowed to take up space. And that's really significant. I think that's really significant to point out that Dani's going to go through a sort of transformation here where she's like, I'm not allowed to speak. I'm not allowed to need things. I'm not allowed to, especially with the way Christian's friends have treated her thus far, but how she grew up in her family possibly is like, I'm not allowed to take up space. I'm not allowed to have needs, right? So that's important to note.
So she went from being unwanted, isolated, undrafted to a team. It was like, oh, these people like me, they want me. You find out how much they want her later, not long from here. But before we get to that, there's the book, the Ruby Radar. I don't know.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. But this book's made up, right? This is not a real book.
Yeah. Ancient wisdom about emotional states of mind, and the elders translate it. This is where you get into some of the more inhumane practices, not just the cliff jumping ritual for those that meet 72, but the purposeful inbreeding so that they have an oracle of an unclouded mind to be able to make these books for them. And there's part of me that goes, well, there is something to be said for people who have an unclouded mind, probably are more connected to source and divine inspiration. There's part of me that agrees with that, but purposely inbreeding so that you can get people who will be able to do that.
Yeah.
Real icky. I'm like,
So they got the disabled people, basically. They got the inbred disabled to be the oracles and paint the pictures and write the runes. And you see Josh and I guess, what is he? The keeper, something. You see him. They're going through the book together, and it's...
Yeah, he's giving him access to learn about it, but he's like, you can't take pictures of it, and you have to keep our names out of your thesis, right? Like, be respectful, dude.
But I'm 99% sure that they knew Josh was going to come back in there. They knew that was going to happen because they set it up for that.
They were tempting him.
They tempted him big time. It was another one of those. It was a different type of seduction. He was looking to be seduced by info. He wanted that. He wanted to know what was in that book.
Yeah.
There's 19 versions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Josh was seduced by information. Mark was seduced by idiocy.
Drugs,
I'm not sure.
whatever else, a good time or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Good point. And then you have Christian, who was seduced literally to become a foreign seed to implant into their community.
Dani was seduced to become a part of this community, to belong a part of this community.
Yeah.
Christian is a big part of this. I mean, even when you have, we'll get to it, but there's love runes that they slip under the bed. Before that, though, the end of Mark, we got Mark peeing on the tree. This is when, in this movie, these people, the Horga people are calm, polite, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He pisses on that tree, the Rotvolta tree, and he pees on that, and you finally see the villagers freak out. Now,
yeah, for sure, that one guy who was like swearing at him in Swedish, he's screaming at him. He's like, "What an idiot! How could you do this? You peed on our sacred tree." This tree that represents their ancestors, and you can see them take the ashes from the couple that met their demise, and they sprinkle it onto the roots of the tree.
In the background.
So
in the background, you can see in the background before, and then the camera pans. You can actually see Mark walk off towards that tree before he does it, and then they go. It's a beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Interaction. It's almost like there's a stage play going on. They had to set that up nicely. And it's that moment, though, to me, you're like, all right, well, I've already seen these people kill people happily. What's going to happen when they're pissed off? Like, that's what my mind went to. It's like, yeah, this ain't going to go good for Mark. And
yeah, well, he's been branded the fool. So we all know what happens to the fool from the children's game in the beginning. This is what he's gonna get.
He gets skinned, and someone wears his skin as a mask later. Not long after.
Yeah, I had to, on the second time, I had to pause it and like really pay attention, because the first time I remember watching it, I was like, wait, what just happened? Like when Josh gets caught trying to take pictures of their sacred book, and there's Mark that's not Mark. Yeah. I was really confused. The first time I saw it, I was like, wait, what's happening? Who is that? Is that Mark, or is that somebody else pretending to be Mark?
Yep.
So the second time really clarified some things for me, because I was like, oh, I get it. I see what's happening.
Wore his skin like a mask. Like, it was not pretty. Not pretty at all. You get to that dinner. After Mark pees on the tree, you got to another dinner, and it just feels awful. It feels, they put this meat tart in front of them.
Yeah.
You already kind of sense, you're like, wait a minute, Simon's missing.
And his fiance, Connie,
she goes missing. You find a pube in the food, a hair.
Yes, which was foreshadowed by the tapestry earlier. If you watched that tapestry and what happens, it's the love rune under the bed, and then the pubic hair in the meat pie, and it tells the whole story of how they are trapping Christian, right?
It does, and it's just, it's all there for you to see what's really happening and what's going to happen. It's the foreshadowing is incredible.
Yeah. This is definitely a movie you got to watch twice.
You have to.
At least.
And we're actually, if you think it's not, we're building to a climactic end. If it hasn't been enough already. Like, this movie really takes you on this, it's an emotional journey that it hits you. It sticks with you. This movie sticks with you after you watch.
Yeah. You know, and I'm just remembering too, there's a nightmare that Dani has while she's there after Simon and Connie. Is it Connie? I think it's Connie. When they go missing, she has this nightmare where they're driving away without her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
they're getting in a car and they're driving away, and she keeps having visions of her family dead and the trauma that she's been through. This isn't surprising, but it all leads back to this idea that Dani doesn't have a place where she belongs.
Yeah.
And then when she's called in to wear a white tunic and be a part of the festivities to dance at the Maypole competition, she's hallucinating these roots growing from her feet, which is very, very heavily symbolic in planting roots and belonging. So it's, it's all tying back to like, where is Dani finding her place where she feels like she belongs, where she's being.
Now, I didn't think about that. Now, she's literally growing roots right there. This is after so let's just set this up first, because she drinks, they give her a drink, a little shot of
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's more of that mushroom tea.
They all drink it together.
Yeah.
All the girls, all the maidens that are participating in the dance.
And then they get up and they start tripping. I'm guessing it's that mushroom tea or something again, some sort of psychedelic. Bunch of girls are in a pole, dancing over and over and over. And the way you win is to be the last one standing.
Yeah, it's like an endurance test while hallucinating on whatever the tea was, right?
Yeah.
It seemed to me the whole time that Dani was just getting pulled along. Like, I don't know if she really would have won, but it seemed like they were just like pulling her along, and they're like, just keep going, just keep going.
So, do you think they let her win?
I think it's possible. I think that they were all along kind of trying to recruit her, right? Like, it picked her out. And by the way, it is also important to note that the costume designer, I didn't write down her name, but the costume designer in this movie, she purposely put Dani in very heavy, baggy, ill-fitting clothes for the beginning of the movie. So all up until she goes into wearing the white tunic that they all wear, when that fits her perfectly and looks good on her and makes her feel like she belongs, this was all on purpose. So that's something to note, too.
Andrea Flesh is the one who did the costume design for... Andrea Flesh did Florence's costume design for that. And I did not notice that, but I will really look at that again, because I love when people put that much detail, that much effort, that much work into making us have a conversation like this about it. Like, it's there. It's there for a reason.
Brilliant.
They didn't accidentally do that. We didn't even mention that this is an A24 movie. We should have known from the beginning, if you watch an A24 movie, you're about to get something different. You're about to get an experience. I love that company. You don't get the happy endings.
Yeah.
They're not going to give it to you. And some people don't like that, but I love that. And this movie right here, you either see it one of two ways. You either got a happy ending or you didn't get a happy ending. I got a happy ending.
Hey, happy ending for who is what I
Now, Dani definitely got a happy ending. And this is what goes back to what I said, the genre of the movie could be a revenge, a breakup movie, because the very last scene, she gives you that little smile.
Yeah.
And you're like...
Everyone's weeping and wailing. It's very dramatic. And she, you think she's falling apart at first. You think she's like reliving her trauma, or, she's going to completely fall apart. But she stands there very still and smiles.
Yep. Looking amazing.
The first time I watched it, I was like, what is she going to do? Is she going to leave? Is she going to go home? Is she going to, I was like dying to know the rest. And then the movie ended and I was like, what?
Yep. Like I said, you don't get those happy endings, but you got an open-ended ending there. I don't think she left that island. There's no way. There's no way she ever left. I mean, she's at home now. She went through the deepest, darkest shit she can, and now she's a queen.
Yeah.
She got to sacrifice someone who had been hurting her the entire time. Piece of shit. She saw him cheating on her.
Yep.
And
she had a choice. She could have sacrificed the villager that was chosen.
Yep.
And they gave her, as the May Queen, it was her right to choose who would be the last of the 9.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
The number 9. 9 sacrifices for the feast. And she, they don't show her choosing, but you see that Christian is the one who gets prepared for the sacrifice.
I think all the way until you see him, you're like, there's no way she's picking him. There's no way she's gonna pick him. And then you're like, huh, maybe she should. Maybe like after
it's like her final stand. Like there's no going back after this, right? Like for her to be able to go, yep, this is my community. This is where I belong. I wanted to point out too, on her tunic, her rune,
move it up,
which was the old lady's rune, is this one. And it is the rune, to the translation for it is wagon. So it's about travel. She does ride in a wagon, by the way. But the spiritual meaning of it is destiny. So it's almost like this is really fitting for her, because this is like her destiny. This has been her entire story up until now. Like she's led to this place, these people. And the one on Christian's tunic, which was on the man, is one of them is this one. And it's Taiwa's. It's the translation is authority, justice, righteousness is the spiritual meaning. I feel like this is like really pointing to, I don't know if this was all intentional, but I had to go look this up just to see like what connections are there. But I feel like it's so fitting that his tunic would have something about justice and righteousness on it and authority. Please.
Right? Like he's a piece. He's a piece. That's all you can say. And I hate to say he got what's coming to him, but honestly, they kind of did. Like
it lets it open for interpretation in that there's not anything that's completely wrong or completely right.
Yeah.
And like I said at the end of Wicker Man, it's like, well, okay, obviously this is very inhumane to sacrifice a human being and even the animals to make sure that their crops grow better next year. But then considering all of the damage that has been done in the Christian God's name, I don't know, you can kind of argue it either way. The friend that pulls her into the dance is wearing this on her tunic.
Okay.
This is Kenaz, and its translation is the torch. And its meaning is enlightenment, knowledge, a new outlook.
Okay.
This is the one pulling her into the dance and dancing with her next to her.
It.
So,
very cool.
You know, I would love to ask the director if that was intentional, but for me, it doesn't matter. I think it's really cool anyway.
Super cool. I'm glad that you caught a lot of stuff that I didn't. And these two movies, though, like I said at the beginning, one was the beginning of this, and then one is basically, to me, was a new version. It was like, let's get some folklore. I know there's been a lot between Wicker Man and Midsommar. There's tons of folklore movies, but these two stand out to me. What's your final thought on Midsommar?
Probably even more so than Wicker Man, although I think it's a theme in both. Midsommar having that lore of intense support and community, that's really significant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you call it evil and like all the things that they did evil, this community obviously has some twisted ideas about death and murder. But the lore of the community is pretty. Look how strong that was. Look how powerful that was for Dani to go from, the tragedy she came from, the world we know, the culture we know, and to go into that and be like, actually, this is what I want. And when Christian is going through the ceremony or ritual of what do you call it? Copulation. When he's going through impregnating the young maiden that's lured him, right? And he may have been drugged during all that, probably. But when he's going through that, there's a room full of women, almost as if they're going through the sexual experience as well. All of them are going through it together. These older women, all of them were probably crone age, if you're kind of looking at it in that sense. They're mothers or crones. And they're all going through it with this maiden who's getting impregnated, which I know he had a moment where he was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
What's going on? But in the meantime, while that's happening, Dani, who sees what he's doing and is going through, again, another moment of extreme grief, she goes into the other barn and she's wailing in grief, which we've seen her do before early in the movie. She did that isolated and alone, and now she's doing it with a group of maidens around her. They're all holding her, and they're not just like going through it. They're not just like, shush, shush, they're there. They're wailing with her. They join her in grief. I think that's really significant. That to me is kind of the epitome of the entire movie. This is about a girl who is looking for belonging. She's looking to be held. She's looking for a space where she takes up space and is allowed to take up space. And yeah, you can put it all with all the horror and gross and entertainment that goes along with it. But to me, that is the central theme of this movie.
I love that. I think what I got to do now is, since you're the expert on this kind of stuff, out of both of these movies, is this real? Is this happening somewhere? Did this stuff happen? Like what's the real context here? Do you think this is kind of stuff? Because if you go to Sweden Midsommar right now, it's not this. And I know for a fact that the Swedes laugh at this movie. They look at this as a black comedy. They think they really do laugh at this movie. Because it's nothing like what a Midsommar is. But is there somewhere doing this kind of stuff? Did they used to do this?
I would say anything's possible. I mean, there are some ancient traditions that have like upheld, and there may be. I mean, we're not unfamiliar with cults and cult risings everywhere on Earth. I mean, everywhere there are extremists, there are fundamentalists, there are people that take their beliefs too far into actually causing harm to people. So, my take was, yeah, it's absolutely possible. But my personal belief in Christianity and paganism is that what I would want people to take away from this is that some of these traditions that you see in these movies, like the hobby horse and the those May Day celebrations. Yeah. So they're celebrating May Day in the Wicker Man, and you see some of those traditions still done. Some of the meanings behind it have changed and adapted, and even Christianity coming in and kind of making it Christianized, like we did with Christmas and taking Yule and Yule solstice and making it into a Christian holiday. But the hobby horse and the parades that they do at May Day, those still exist in England in small towns. And Morris dancing and a lot of it is making a revival. We're trying to go back to like, well, what were these traditions that they used to do? You'll notice in Wicker Man, they have these braided wheat things that kind of hang in the schoolhouse, and they kind of, you notice it throughout the movie. Those are things that I and my friends do at, we just did it at Lamas or Lunestad, our Wheel of the Year celebration. We braided wheat into a sun and to honor the wheat that is harvested right now. So you see a lot of it. And so if you're asking if these movies are real, I would say, yes, there's a lot of real to these movies. Hopefully not the horrific parts, but yeah, a lot of the traditions and stuff are still very real.
Well, they make it feel real. I mean, even in Wicker Man, the very opening, you got that opening thing that says, thank you to the Lord Summerisle for allowing us to, and I'm like, you're like, wait, is this a true story? Is this a documentary? Like, what is this?
Right. Well, I do find it very strange. And there's one thing that in Wicker Man I forgot to mention is the more English hierarchical role that Lord Summerisle plays. He lives in like a castle, almost like he has been lorded by the king. It's like that's a little bit contradictory to the pagan kind of way of life that they have on this island. So I don't know where that was supposed to play a part in this, but it's like having him live in a castle and be lord over everyone kind of contradicts that idea. But, you know, maybe they're just kind of marrying those ideas together.
It was Christopher Lee, though, so we didn't second guess anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he led.
Yeah. He's great.
Amazing time. What else we got to say about this? Anything?
I think we covered it really well. We've got a lot going on in these movies. So,
whew. 2 bangers right out of the gate, Courtney. The Wicker Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on my screen right now, and there's a trailer playing for it because I had the IMDb text up and all that, and it was when he was in the man and burning up. Like,
yeah, the internets were listening to you.
In Midsommar, just as disturbing. Like, there's nothing else to say. We said it all. Now
we picked these movies apart pretty well. We went right down through each and every infamous scene.
I had a lot of fun. First of all, and I can't wait to see what else comes in this Which Movie Project series. And I really can't wait for October 26th at Novel Daybreak by Crescent Communities. They are proud to present the Which Movie Project live podcast taping and movie screening. This is where the people at home can vote on a movie. So today, for instance, you would vote between The Wicker Man and Midsommar. Which one do you like? Where do we vote? Where are they voting at, Courtney?
You can contact us on either of our social medias. So if you come to mine, Prism Healing, I have Instagram at Prism_Healing, and on my Facebook, Courtney Pearl's Prism Healing. So you can direct message me your vote, or on Ride the Wave Media.
That's right, at Ride the Wave Media across the board. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter /X, I think, is at RTW Podcast. And then you got the YouTube channel. That's where you can see our beautiful faces. I don't know about ours. At least one of us. We won't pick who. But it's at
the
Ride
prettiest?
the Wave Media. Right, yeah. At Ride the Wave Media Podcast on YouTube. We also got to thank our sponsors, Novel Daybreak by Crescent Communities, and also Stacy Milhorn at Pure Sweat and Float, South Jordan. Love you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything. We'll see you guys next week.